Admiral Rhea Chen stood at the viewport of Orbital Station Delta, her reflection ghosting against the stars as she watched humanity's carefully crafted deception unfold. The Galactic Concordat survey fleet had just emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their sleek crystalline ships gleaming like cut diamonds against the void. "They're right on schedule," she murmured, more to herself than to her aide, Lieutenant James Morrison, who stood quietly at her side. The surveillance network they'd hidden in the Oort cloud had tracked the Concordat's approach for the past 3 years. Everything was proceeding according to plan. "All stations report ready, Admiral," Morrison said, his dark eyes fixed on the holographic display floating between them. "Operation Looking Glass is in effect." The plan had been decades in the making. Ever since humanity's first tentative steps into faster-than-light travel, they had known this day would come. The galaxy was not empty, and first contact was inevitable. But humanity had learned from its own bloody history. The strongest position was the one your opponent never saw coming. "Show me the Concordat's perspective," Chen ordered. The hologram shifted, displaying what the alien fleet's sensors would be detecting: a scattered collection of seemingly primitive space stations, mining operations, and defense platforms. Most appeared to be cobbled together from spare parts and outdated technology, with visible patches and jury-rigged repairs. It was all a lie. Every piece of primitive technology was a masterwork of deception, housing capabilities that would shock the Concordat's military minds. The ramshackle solar collectors were actually quantum phase arrays. The clumsy-looking defense platforms contained temporal distortion fields. Even the space debris was carefully positioned, each piece containing sophisticated sensor suites and stealth systems. "They're launching observation drones," Morrison reported, moving into standard first contact formation. Chen nodded, watching as the crystalline ships arranged themselves in a precise geometric pattern. The Concordat was known for their rigid adherence to protocol and their belief in technological superiority through uniformity. It made them predictable. "Signal the mining platforms to begin their performance," she ordered. Right on cue, several of the ungainly mining vessels started their carefully choreographed dance of inefficiency, venting excess plasma and wobbling slightly in their orbits. To the Concordat sensors, it would look like barely controlled chaos. The first transmission from the alien fleet arrived exactly as their intelligence suggested it would. A holographic figure materialized in the command center, tall, elegant, with iridescent scales and multiple sets of eyes. "High Commander Seleth of the Galactic Concordat Survey Fleet." "Greetings, inhabitants of Sol System," the alien's translated voice rang with authority and barely concealed disdain. "We come representing the greatest civilization in known space. Your achievements in reaching the stars have been noted, though your methods are unconventional. We offer guidance to elevate your species to proper galactic standards." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "High Commander, welcome to Earth space. I am Admiral Rhea Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We're honored by your offer, though I'm curious about these proper galactic standards you mention." The alien's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of surprise at her direct question. "Your technology is crude, your ships ungainly. The Concordat can provide templates for proper military vessel design, standardized weapon configurations, and approved tactical doctrines." "How fascinating," Chen replied, maintaining her diplomatic smile. "Though I wonder, High Commander, have you considered that standardization might not be the only path to advancement?" Before Seleth could respond, one of their ships detected an anomaly, exactly where Chen's forces had planted it. A piece of space debris, seemingly drifting too close to their formation. "Admiral," Seleth's tone grew sharp, "one of your derelict satellites is approaching our fleet. Please control your equipment." "Oh, that old thing." Chen's voice remained casual. "It's just a defunct weather satellite. Though I should mention, not everything in our space is exactly what it appears to be." The satellite suddenly shed its outer layer of debris, revealing a sleek probe that scanned the entire Concordat fleet before they could raise their shields. In the span of 30 seconds, it had collected more data about their ships than they had managed to gather about Earth's forces in 3 years of observation. Seleth's scales shifted to a deep purple. Anger, according to their xenobiologists. This is an outrage. Such deception is perfectly legal under your own first contact protocols. Chen interrupted smoothly. Article 7, Section 3. All civilizations retain the right to protect their technological secrets during initial diplomatic exchange. We've studied your laws quite thoroughly, High Commander. The alien leader stared at her for a long moment, multiple eyes blinking in sequence. You planned this. High Commander. Chen's smile remained diplomatic, but her eyes hardened. Everything you've seen since entering our system has been exactly what we wanted you to see. The real question is, what haven't you seen yet? As if on cue, the holographic display flickered with new sensor contacts. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations began powering up, their energy signatures no longer masked. The Concordat fleet's tactical officers must have been going mad trying to process the sudden flood of data. Perhaps, Shen suggested, we should begin our diplomatic relations again. This time, as equals. High Commander Seleth paced the command deck of his flagship, scales flickering between shades of agitation. 3 days had passed since the humans revealed their first layer of deception, and each hour brought new surprises that challenged everything the Concordat thought they knew about the species. Show me the latest analysis, he commanded. His science officer, Lita, brought up a holographic display of the Sol system, now marked with thousands of previously hidden energy signatures. It's not just their technology that deceived us, Lita reported, her cybernetic enhancements whirring as she processed the data. Their entire social structure appears designed to mislead. What we thought was bureaucratic inefficiency was actually a carefully constructed command system. The display zoomed in on Earth's orbital installations. What had appeared to be civilian research stations now pulsed with military-grade quantum signatures. Trading vessels revealed themselves as mobile command centers. Even their waste management systems concealed sophisticated defense networks. How did we miss this? Seleth demanded, though he already knew the answer. The Concordat's military doctrine was based on displaying power, on the belief that superior technology should be visible and uniform. The idea of deliberately appearing weak was alien. A communication request flashed across their screens. Admiral Chen again. Seleth felt his scales ripple with reluctant respect as he accepted the transmission. High Commander. Chen greeted him with that same measured smile. I trust your analysis teams have been busy. Have you figured out our waste recycling systems yet? Seleth's secondary hearts skipped a beat. Those aren't really quantum entanglement nodes. Chen finished. Actually, they are both. We found that disguising military technology as mundane infrastructure was remarkably effective. After all, who looks twice at a sewage processor? Your entire civilization is built on deception, Seleth said, unable to keep the accusation from his voice. Chen's expression grew serious. No, Commander. Our civilization is built on survival. Earth's history taught us that appearing powerful makes you a target. Appearing weak while being strong, that's what keeps the peace. Before Seleth could respond, Lita interrupted with urgent data. Commander, energy spike from the humans' lunar facilities. The moon's surface seemed to ripple as massive hangar doors opened, revealing shipyards that had been hidden beneath the regolith. Vessels of war emerged, not the crude ships they'd seen before, but sleek predators that made his tactical officers gasp. Just a small part of our actual fleet, Chen explained casually. We call this the Revelation Protocol. Every 12 hours, we reveal another layer of our capabilities. Consider it a trust-building exercise. Seleth felt his scales pale. How many layers are there? That would be telling. Chen smiled. Though I should mention, everything we've shown you so far has been defensive in nature. Would you like to see what we've designed for offense? The threat was subtle but clear. Lita's analysis flashed new warnings. The human ships were taking up formation around the Concordat fleet, not aggressively, but with precise coordination that spoke of years of drilling. The Concordat believes in standardization because it brings order, Seleth said, trying to understand. Your approach breeds chaos. Does it? Chen challenged. Look closer, Commander. Our ships may appear different, but each is precisely designed for its role. We simply believe that telegraphing those roles to potential adversaries is inefficient. A new alert caught Seleth's attention. Deep space sensors detected movement from Jupiter's orbital plane. What they had dismissed as scattered asteroids began to move with purpose, revealing themselves as massive capital ships that had been lying dormant. Impossible, Lita whispered. The energy required to maintain that level of cloaking would be enormous, Chen agreed. Unless, of course, you didn't use cloaking at all. Sometimes the best way to hide something is to make it look like exactly what people expect to see. Your sensors registered exactly what was there. Large rocks in predictable orbits. You just didn't ask yourself why those particular rocks never tumbled like natural asteroids do. Seleth felt the weight of centuries of Concordat military doctrine crumbling around him. Everything they had assumed about warfare, about the display of power, about the very nature of military strength. The humans had systematically undermined it all. Why show us this now? He asked finally. Because, Commander. Chen's voice carried the weight of authority, earned rather than assumed. The galaxy is changing. The Concordat's approach worked well when you were the dominant power, but you're not alone anymore. Humanity doesn't want war. We've had enough of that in our history. What we want is understanding. And sometimes, understanding only comes after you've shown someone how completely wrong their assumptions have been. As if to punctuate her point, a new set of readings appeared on Seleth's displays. The humans' orbital defense platforms were reconfiguring, transforming from what had appeared to be simple weapon emplacements into something far more complex. Now then, Chen continued, shall we begin our real diplomatic discussions? I believe we have much to learn from each other. Seleth looked at the tactical display, at the layers of human deception and capability that were still unfolding around his fleet, and made a decision that would change the course of Concordat history. Yes, Admiral, I believe we do. The Concordat High Council chamber erupted into chaos as the holographic presentation ended. High Commander Seleth stood motionless at the center of the vast circular room, his scales a muted gray of resignation as dozens of council members spoke over each other in various tones of outrage and disbelief. Deliberate deception. A violation of galactic protocols. They'd been preparing for war while claiming peaceful intentions. Supreme Counselor Ven raised all four hands for silence, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the light as she stood. High Commander Seleth, you mean to tell us that these humans have not only hidden their true capabilities, but have apparently been studying our weaknesses for years? Before Seleth could respond, a new hologram materialized in the chamber. Admiral Chen, right on schedule. Her unexpected appearance sent another wave of murmurs through the council. Supreme Counselor, Chen's voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. If I may address the council directly. Ven's outer membrane flickered with indignation. This is a closed session of the High Council. How did you access your secure communications network? Chen finished. The same way we've been monitoring all Concordat transmissions for the past decade. You see, while you were watching our visible communications channels, you never thought to check the quantum variance in your own system's background radiation. The chamber fell silent. Chen continued, her holographic form walking slowly around the circle, meeting the eyes of each council member. You speak of deception and protocol violations. Let's talk about the Concordat scout ships that have been probing Earth's defenses for the past 15 years. Or perhaps the automated surveillance platforms you scattered throughout our Oort cloud. Ven's exoskeleton took on a darker hue. Standard reconnaissance of potentially hostile species. Exactly, Chen smiled. And how is our reconnaissance of your capabilities any different? The Concordat claims to value honesty and transparency, yet you maintain an extensive surveillance network across 12 sectors of space. The only difference is we chose to let you see what we wanted you to see. A new council member, one Seleth didn't recognize, spoke up. But your deceptions go beyond mere surveillance. You've developed weapons platforms disguised as civilian infrastructure. Have we? Chen raised an eyebrow. Or did you simply assume that anything you didn't immediately recognize as a weapon couldn't be one? Humanity learned long ago that the most effective defense isn't always a visible wall of guns. Sometimes it's making your opponent so uncertain about what is and isn't a threat that they think twice about aggressive action. The hologram shifted, displaying a three-dimensional map of known space. Thousands of points of light represented Concordat installations, shipping lanes, and military assets. Then, overlaid on top, a web of previously invisible human monitoring stations and hidden outposts appeared. "This is impossible," another council member whispered. "Some of these stations are within our core systems. All perfectly legal under your own laws," Chen pointed out. Article 12 of the Concordat Charter. All spacefaring species retain the right to establish observation posts in neutral space. We simply had a broader definition of neutral space than you anticipated. Seleth watched as the council members processed this information. He had experienced this same revelation days ago, the dawning understanding that everything they thought they knew about military doctrine and galactic strategy had been built on assumptions that humans had systematically undermined. Supreme Counselor Ven finally spoke again, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of Concordat authority. "What are your demands, Admiral Chen?" "Demands?" Chen looked genuinely surprised. "We're not making demands, Supreme Counselor. We're opening a dialogue. Everything we've shown you, every layer of deception and hidden capability, has been a demonstration of a simple truth. The old ways of thinking about power and security need to change." She gestured, and the holographic display shifted again, showing Earth's solar system. "We've revealed our capabilities not to threaten, but to show you that there's more than one way to approach galactic security. The Concordat believes in visible strength, in standardization, in clear displays of power. We believe there's room for alternative approaches. Alternative approaches that leave us blind to your true capabilities," a council member accused. "No," Chen corrected. "Alternative approaches that force everyone to think twice before assuming they know the full extent of any civilization's capabilities. In our history, the deadliest conflicts often started because someone was too certain they knew their opponent's strength." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just hidden their military capabilities. They had introduced an element of fundamental uncertainty into galactic politics. How could you be certain of victory if you couldn't trust your own assessment of your opponent's strength? "The Concordat faces a choice," Chen concluded. "You can respond to these revelations with anger and threats, in which case we have several more layers of surprises prepared. Or you can recognize that the galaxy is changing and help us build a new framework for interstellar relations, one based not on visible displays of power, but on mutual respect and careful consideration." As if to emphasize her point, new energy signatures began appearing throughout the Sol system. What had seemed to be natural phenomena, radiation belts, magnetic anomalies, even the solar wind itself, revealed subtle signs of human manipulation. "Think carefully," Chen said softly. "Because I assure you, everything you've seen so far has still been exactly what we wanted you to see." Fleet Admiral Kress of the Concordat's 3rd Expeditionary Force watched as his armada of 10,000 ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The Council's patience had finally run out. After 3 weeks of increasingly tense negotiations, they had authorized a show of force to bring the humans to heel. "Deploy in standard combat formation," he ordered, his scales shimmering with anticipation. "Let them see what real military might looks like." His fleet stretched across space in a perfect geometric pattern, each ship precisely positioned according to Concordat doctrine. The humans had impressed some with their tricks and deceptions, but surely they would understand the futility of resistance when faced with the largest fleet deployment in 5 centuries. The human response was not what he expected. Nothing. No ships moved to intercept. No defense platforms activated. The scattered vessels throughout the system continued their seemingly chaotic routines as if one of the largest military forces ever assembled hadn't just appeared on their doorstep. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, confusion evident in her tone, "we're detecting no changes in human military posture. Their ships aren't even adjusting their courses." Kress felt his scales ripple with uncertainty. This wasn't how inferior forces were supposed to react to a Concordat show of strength. They should be scrambling, panicking, rushing to defensive positions. A communication request flashed across his command screen. "Admiral Chen." He accepted with a gesture, preparing to deliver his ultimatum. "Fleet Admiral Kress." Chen greeted him as if they were meeting for afternoon tea. "Impressive fleet you've brought. Though I have to ask, did the Council really think quantity would make a difference when you still don't know what you're actually fighting?" "This is the combined might of 3 sectors," Kress declared. "Surrender your orbital defense platforms and submit to Concordat authority. Or you'll do what exactly?" Chen interrupted, her voice taking on an edge of steel. "Attack. With ships whose targeting systems have been compromised for the past 6 hours. Kress felt his blood run cold. "Impossible. We just arrived." "In a formation that we predicted down to the individual ship positions," Chen finished. "Really, Admiral? Did you think we wouldn't notice the Concordat running combat simulations? We've had access to your tactical databases for months. The moment you started calculating invasion vectors, we began preparing the battlefield." Warning indicators suddenly flashed across Kress's tactical displays. Ships throughout his fleet reported system anomalies, targeting computers recalibrating to incorrect coordinates, shield harmonics fluctuating. "What have you done?" he demanded. "We didn't have to do anything new," Chen explained, almost patiently. "Those emergency navigation updates your ships automatically downloaded when they entered the system. Standard procedure, according to Concordat protocols. Except our quantum infiltrators have been waiting inside your update servers for weeks." The tactical display suddenly showed thousands of new contacts. The debris fields they had dismissed, the asteroids they had ignored, even what had appeared to be solar wind distortions, all revealed themselves as carefully positioned weapon platforms and stealth ships. "You see, Admiral," Chen continued, "while you were counting our visible ships and calculating power ratios, we were turning the entire solar system into a single integrated defense grid. Those civilian transmitters you detected, they'd been subtly affecting your ship's quantum processors since you arrived. Each piece of space debris contains phase-locked targeting arrays. Even the patterns of radiation from our sun have been engineered to interfere with your sensors in ways your systems interpret as normal background noise." Kress watched in horror as his perfect formation began to break down. Ship after ship reported system failures, weapons going offline, engines responding erratically. Not through any visible attack, but through countless subtle manipulations that had begun the moment they arrived. "Impossible," he whispered. "No civilization could coordinate something on this scale." "That's the problem with the Concordat's approach to warfare," Chen said. "You think in terms of ships and weapons, of visible displays of force. We think in terms of systems within systems. Your fleet isn't being defeated by our weapons, Admiral. It's being defeated by an environment we've spent years preparing." A new set of readings caught Kress's attention. The human, supposedly primitive orbital platforms were transforming, revealing sophisticated energy weapon arrays that had been disguised as communications equipment. "Last chance, Admiral." Chen's voice was firm but not unkind. "You can either order your fleet to stand down, or we can demonstrate exactly why we let you bring such a large force into our system. After all, There's no better way to demonstrate a new approach to warfare than to do so with an audience of 10,000 ships. Crest looked at his tactical display, at the layers of human deception and capability that were still unfolding around his fleet. Everything he had believed about military power, about the very nature of warfare, had been systematically dismantled. You never needed ships or weapons to defeat us, he realized. This entire system is your weapon. Now you're beginning to understand. Chen nodded. The question is, how many of your ships need to be disabled before the Council understands as well? Cress felt the weight of 10,000 crews' lives on his shoulders. His fleet, the pride of the Concordat, had been rendered combat ineffective without a single shot being fired. And he knew, with crushing certainty, that this too was exactly what the humans had planned. 6 months after the Sol system incident, as it came to be known, Supreme Counselor Ven stood before the assembled representatives of 200 spacefaring civilizations in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on neutral territory. The events in the Sol system forced us to confront an uncomfortable truth, she began, her crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. The Concordat's fundamental assumptions about military power, about the very nature of strength in the galactic community, were based on outdated thinking. In the front row, Admiral Chen sat quietly beside High Commander Seleth, an unlikely partnership that had emerged from the aftermath of the confrontation. The humans' demonstration of system-wide defensive capability had sent shockwaves through galactic society, challenging centuries of established military doctrine. For too long, Ven continued, we equated power with visibility. We believed that strength lay in standardization, in clear displays of military might. The humans showed us that true security can lie in uncertainty, in making potential adversaries question their own assumptions. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing the new defense frameworks being implemented across Concordat space. Gone were the uniform fleet formations and standardized weapon platforms. In their place, a more subtle approach emerged, one that incorporated lessons learned from humanity's strategy. The humans didn't just reveal their own capabilities, Seleth added, rising to join Ven at the podium. They forced us to recognize that our entire approach to galactic security was based on an outdated paradigm. We thought we were assessing their strength by our standards, never considering that they might be operating under a completely different framework. Admiral Chen stepped forward, completing the trio at the podium. What happened in Sol system wasn't just about military capability, she explained. It was about challenging the very way we think about power and security in an interstellar community. The old approach of deterrence through visible strength creates an arms race that benefits no one. We propose something different. Security through uncertainty. The holographic displays shifted, showing the new joint human Concordat training initiatives. Species from across the galaxy were learning to integrate deception and misdirection into their defense strategies, moving away from rigid doctrine toward a more flexible, adaptive approach. But this isn't just about military doctrine, Chen continued. It's about how civilizations interact. When every species has to consider that their potential adversaries might be more capable than they appear, it forces a more cautious, diplomatic approach to conflict resolution. Ven gestured, and the displays showed the new diplomatic framework being implemented across known space. The humans showed us that true strength isn't about having the biggest fleet or the most advanced weapons. It's about creating an environment where conflict becomes too uncertain to risk. The assembly hall erupted in discussion as representatives debated the implications of this new approach. Some species were already adopting elements of human strategy, disguising their capabilities beneath seemingly primitive exteriors. Others were restructuring their entire defense doctrines around the principle of strategic ambiguity. There will always be those who believe in the old ways, Seleth acknowledged, his scales shifting to thoughtful blue. But the Sol system incident proved that visible power isn't the only path to security. Sometimes, the most effective defense is making your potential adversaries unsure of what they're really facing. Chen stepped forward one last time. The galaxy is entering a new era, she declared. One where strength isn't measured by the size of your fleet or the uniformity of your tactics, but by your ability to make potential adversaries stop and think before they act. That uncertainty, that moment of doubt, is worth more than 1,000 warships. As the assembly continued their deliberations, Ven turned to Chen privately. You planned this too, didn't you? Not just the defense of your system, but how it would force us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about galactic security. Chen smiled slightly. Supreme Counselor, if there's one thing humanity has learned from our own history, it's that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a weapon at all. It's an idea that changes how people think about warfare itself. As if to emphasize her point, the holographic displays showed new construction beginning throughout known space. Defensive installations that deliberately mimicked the seemingly chaotic, jury-rigged appearance of human designs. But now everyone had to wonder, which ones were truly primitive, and which ones harbored capabilities that would only be revealed when it was too late. The age of visible power was over. The era of strategic uncertainty had begun, and with it, a new approach to maintaining peace among the stars. Not through the threat of overwhelming force, but through the subtle power of doubt and the recognition that appearances could be the most effective deception of all. Welcome, Chen said softly, to the new galactic order, where the strongest civilizations might be the ones you never suspected had strength at all.